Wonderful. Welcome, everyone. Sandra Horton, and I'm alongside Dr. Sujata Ives. And this is one of my favorite days of the week because we get to come live on not only YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And we're here to talk about Activate Success, tips, tools, and insights to be a leader in your niche. So why don't we begin as we always begin with a little bit of introduction because we may be new to you and we'll kind of take it from there. So Dr. Sujata Ives, why don't you introduce yourself to our wonderful audience?
Thank you so much, Sandra. Great to be here. I am a certified counselor and workplace global consultant, international speaker. I am the current president of the Maryland Career Development Association and the chair of the International Committee of the American Counseling Association and the co-chair of the Asia Pacific Career Development Association.
Thank you, Sujata, and I'm just going to move on to myself. I'm Sandra Horton, and I love doing this. So I've been doing change work. I'm a certified change management practitioner. I have over 25 plus years helping organizations, leaders, and organizations to transform, to really bring about that change on an individual, team, and organizational level. I'm certified in emotional intelligence practitioner. So when we talk about our chapter 5 today, this is a near and dear to my heart, all about conscious leadership. And I'm just so excited. Why don't we just jump on in, let's do a retrospective a little bit about where we've come from and where we're going. So Activate Success, Tips, Tools, and Insights to be a leader in your niche is a robust book. And I'm going to hold it up right now. And I know Sujata has hers handy as well. Awesome. So we have many, many chapters. We're on chapter 5. So we've gone from before to now. So Sujata, do you want to just take us through a little retrospective to kind of where we came from and where we are today? And then I'll take us forward.
Sure. So first and foremost, what makes Sandra and I so different is because very few females write books on leadership. So when we got together, we felt that this perspective through two females, and especially those that come from different culture, from different nations. I'm originally from India and the Indian culture. Sandra's from Canada. So that's also a specific culture. And so this book has a different lens, a different perspectives on things that are currently relevant and the trends that are happening post-pandemic. Therefore, we started the book with a conversation on what we feel would be the best constructs for post-pandemic workplace and personal life. We gave you 3 pillars. The first pillar is self-discovery. And through self-discovery, we ask you in this workbook to jump into 4 essential questions. Now, we've brought our 4 essential questions to you. So that's also in the book. Those questions are: who am I? Where am I going? How do I get there? And how do I stay there? So that's all part of self-discovery, because while the external world is putting forth a great deal of effort in pivoting into new rules, new regulations, new policies, perhaps, to meet diversity at the societal level, we believe that it is at the individual level where an individual must overcome their challenges through consciousness, through their awareness, their intention, and their positivity. So that's pillar one. The second pillar that we brought you was change readiness. Change, look, change is hard. It's a very difficult thing. So making yourself ready for that change matters a whole lot.
Yes.
And our third pillar then was sustainable impact, because we have to think about the next generation. We have to pass down things that work. So that's where we are.
We're moving forward. We're moving forward. And I think the most important thing, and particularly for those who are, whether you're viewing now live or on replay, a couple really key elements for us in the workplace and what we've been experiencing in our different work environments, whether it's in our everyday consulting or counseling, etc. What we're really seeing is this post-pandemic reality and the need, because we have multiple generations in our workplaces, the need, the desire, the emphasis on conscious leadership is even more fundamental right now. And I'm really passionate about this. So if you see that my energy gets going higher, because I really do feel like the essence, we just have to look at, even our last interactions. Like, consider yourself right now. What was your last interaction like? How did you interact with that person? Were you present for them? Were you aware of what they were feeling and thinking and experiencing? Because in the book, what we talk about are some barriers to success that many leaders face because of the lack of consciousness, the confusion, the conflicts, not really feeling like you're heard. There's a lack of empathy. And so this conversation today in chapter 5 is going to be really, really powerful. I feel very strongly about this because each of us has our own unique perspective. And in the book, we actually share a really interesting, wonderful story. And Sujat, I wanted if you wanted to share a little bit about the story, because our drivers, our activators are clarity and mindset. And pieces of that is our own perspective, our lens, how we look at things matters. It matters so much. So in this wonderful story, we talk about the different aspects of, and I'll send it to you now, of, go for it, with the elephant. Thank you. The blind man and the elephant.
So yes, as Sandra just said, the activators for this chapter. And so you might say, well, what the heck are activators? We felt like, people sometimes don't know where to begin. And so what we've taken is our past experiences, and we've put our two heads together, because two heads are better than one, as they say. And we've given you a starting point of shooting for clarity and a certain mindset that's open to receive. Mm-hmm. We, in this chapter, we start off with a parable. And it's an old one by John Godfrey Sachs. And perhaps you've heard of this before. It's the 6 blind men of Hindustan. And the point of this parable is all 6 blind men are brought to an elephant, but each person is feeling a different portion of that elephant. And so the point is that we all come to the table and we're all feeling a different part of the elephant. But together, we are more. Together, if we put our heads together, our perspectives together, we will realize that it's an elephant. But by ourselves, we just have one perspective, and just one. And that comes from our perception. And this is the point where I'm going to say this, because we are at the conscious leadership chapter. Your perception that you have comes from your beliefs, assumptions, biases, how you were raised. But it is an illusion. It is not reality. So your perception, your perspective, of course, it's yours. It's been formulated from your lifespan development. It's yours. So you own it. You make decisions. You make solve problems from it, stemming from it. It's yours. In this book, for this chapter, we're asking you to code shift. We're asking you to bring that awareness into the picture. Be aware that, yes, you do have your perception and you do have your perspective, but be open to listening, to conversing with, and dialoguing with other people at the table so that you can gain a new perspective that may be actually closer to reality than what you're perceiving.
Yeah, and I think that's really powerful, Sujata, is, talking about dialogue and not just a one-way conversation. And a dialogue is that openness between two people to really, get to know each other deeply, to be in that present moment, to really like engage and understand that other person's perspective. And it's interesting. I don't know if, some of the listeners have had this experience, but we all have different personalities. And so as the personalities show up in the work world, being able to understand and kind of look at that, observe ourselves and say, oh, you're different than I am. I need to, do some things differently to understand kind of, and some personalities can rub people a certain way, a different way that maybe perhaps you're not looking at that mirror image of yourself on the other side. And I think, we don't talk enough about like the personality, but also the traits, how people actually demonstrate themselves. And so, let's dive into that traits opportunity to kind of reflect on that, because I know I've had to really kind of stop myself and just take that moment of observation as a leader and to look at a behavior versus say that what that person is actually demonstrating. Does that make sense? And I wanted to kind of dive into that aspect.
Sure. So this is what the research says. There are two things that are going on. There's something called temperament, and temperament does not change. However, personality is fluid, so it changes over time as you go through early, middle, late childhood, adolescence, and early, middle, late adulthood. Your personality will change, and sometimes it changes with who you're with and the context and the situation. So, for example, I know my own daughter, I can tell you, she's a little bit more formal with us. But, when she's with her peers and such, she becomes very extroverted and she's in her element and feel safe in a sense of belongingness and all of that. So that's a prime example of how personality can work. And so in this chapter, we do differentiate and we do give you the specifics of temperament versus personality. Now, temperament is how the baby is born. That baby can be just the sweetest, smiley, easygoing baby, right?
Yeah.
So this temperament is going to flow into adulthood. But the same token, you're going to, see a cranky baby. And so literature, we call it difficult. It's the term, and clinical term. that I'm not getting. It's
Yep.
usually it's either easy, difficult, or slow to warm up is what the literature says. And guess what? And from those temperaments, you have these personalities that emerge.
Mhm.
Now, this is, just to give you a visual, there are 8 billion people on this planet. Okay, are there 8 billion personalities? No, there aren't. You're going to find people just like you. And so, so this is kind of this law of attraction here too, right? You're going to be attracted to
Mhm.
people that have similar personalities, just like you do. Some people are going to be open. Some people are going to be neurotic. Some people are going to be closed. And it's just that's what the research shows.
Yeah, and the thing, the application, again, going back to kind of those work environments and the situations and some of the communication challenges, really, and the conflict resolution strategies actually link right back into that. Because if and when you do become more conscious, like present in that moment, is that power place as a conscious leader. You make that decision how you want to show up. How do you want to be able to actually use your emotions? How do you want to be able to use your emotions for purposefulness? And for me, what I found as an EQI practitioner, and we talk about the use of emotions as well in this chapter particularly, is that we need to be responsive and not reactionary. And what I have found through my own personal growth, and I see it daily as well, whether it's in my current kind of contracting work that I'm doing or others, that the moment we have that aha moment that, oh, okay, this person, and I'm deciding how I'm looking at them through my own perspective, that I have a choice to make how I want to engage with them and how I want to use the emotions for the positive versus having a reactionary, which we've talked about earlier. And so I hope you're getting this piece, that this is all works together. So conscious leadership means we're more aware. We develop that through self-discovery, these aspects, not only of ourselves in our ways of being, how we see the world, how we feel, how we experience all these things. So again, I go back to your last interaction you had at work today. How did it go? What did you feel? Where did you feel it? How did you manage your emotions so that the outcome was supportive of both yourself and someone else? That is when we can get more clear, and clarity and mindset are paramount as those activators for success in conscious leadership. Because if I just come in with my own lens, my perspective, and I'm not aware of my impact on you, or that my emotions are driving this, what's going to happen to you? If you're an introvert, Sujata, what would happen if I come powering in there with all of my energy?
Right.
Wah! Like,
No, I
I,
know.
and I'm using that visual purposely because I'm actually bringing up my energy. And how does it make the person who's an introvert, as an example? This is not an overgeneralization, but just a general point, that I could be putting so much energy out there that you may just feel like, oh, I got to withdraw. So this is important. This is something to consider when we're looking at conscious leadership. So I'm going to jump over to you. What are your thoughts on that, Sujata?
Absolutely. And, Sandra and I went on the premise here for this book that people don't leave their jobs, people leave people.
Correct.
So, this is just so important. And so, what we've done is from here on in, from chapter 5 to chapter 15, we've given you 2 very important sections. One is change management insight, and the second section is effective communication and conflict resolution. And we've shown you what a conscious leader, their traits are, what their stressors are, and how to speak, in the workplace with a conscious leader or a leader who's not conscious. So we're giving you these tips, tools, and insights. We want to make your job easier.
Yes, and I think that's the power is in each of these chapters, we really are giving you the roadmap, and that's the cool piece. Because one of the things we said earlier in each and every single chapter in our visits on here is the application. So take what you're reading, take the time to look at your own personal leadership journey right now, your situations, pick a situation, and then we give you questions to ask yourself to go and then deliver, to actually go and do this so that you can experience. It's not just us sharing, it's your own journey as well. And it's interesting because we also talk about how, important different leadership styles are depending on the circumstances and the environment. And I just kind of wanted to jump into that, like with Kurt Lewin and many others. And Lewin talks about like authoritarian and laissez-faire and different aspects of it. So we're really saying that in any situation, you have a decision to make now how you want to lead. And in conscious leadership, and I just love this moment, is when you have that aha moment that I need to do things differently. That's building self-awareness. If you're not getting the results that you want to see, then you need to change. You need to change something. So I love the work with Kurt Lewin and many others. Sujata, who is your kind of go-to conscious leadership with Gina Hayden? I love her work as well. And, we've really brought that into the book as well to ground within that work science, because this book is grounded in empirical evidence, so that when you read it, you go, okay, I'm going to learn about these people. I'm going to apply it, and I'm going to go and do it in myself. So I'm going to stop there and just let you jump in and take it away on your thoughts on that.
Yes, it's so true. Employees are coming to work every single day. They don't come and say, gee, I hope I mess up today.
Yes.
They want to do a good job for their boss. So what we're looking for here is conscious leaders who support their people, who support their motivations. And I always go back to Maslow's needs theory, because everybody has their needs, and the younger generations, they get it. They understand fully well. You've got the power to hire and fire. Okay, let's put that aside. Now what?
Yep.
Now let's get down to business here and really connect with each other and connect with your people. And that's the leadership that we're looking for. That's the leader that we want, because we believe that that's the type of leader that's going to have sustainable impact. Somebody who makes a connection, who cares about rapport and relationships and team building. But that requires a leader to get to know their people. They have to take the time to get to know their people.
Yeah. And Sujata, I'm going to jump in on that. And the how is the big piece here. So we talk about the importance of identifying values, identifying, and I know in the workplace, you may have gone to different, values workshops or things like that, but genuinely, this is that next level of really individually understanding what are the values that are important to the people that you serve, the people that are coming along with you as you're working towards achieving your goals. And building that shared value, really understanding how that connection can be made. And we've talked about that word connection, because connection is important. And that, as you said, it goes right back into the sense of belongingness. And so I really, really see now that the values, and also going into like identifying a value, what is the value that they hold? And then what is the beliefs underneath it? Like, what does that person believe? How do they want to show it? How do you support them to show it? So a good example is, and we talk about this, if you value tidiness, if you value that, cleanliness as an example, and then you go into the lunchroom and there's a haphazard mixing of people not really respecting each other. We've used this example as well, but how is that going to make you feel? Are you going to find that your people that you're working with share the same values? Perhaps, probably not. So we really need to get clear how we can work more collaboratively together and really do care and show how others want to show their values.
Yes.
So I'm feeling, Sujata, you want to jump into that one?
Yeah, the values piece is huge, and we address that right from the beginning. We want you to make a connection between feelings, values, and stressors. And so we give you that formula for effective communication and conflict resolution right from the get-go. You're feeling something because you value something. And because there's a breach in a value, that's bringing you the stress. And you've got to make those connections. You've got to connect the feelings, values, and stressors formula. And we give you a nice little box at the end of every single chapter so that it's a good reminder for every leadership style to keep that formula going and that formula in mind.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that you bringing that up to this session, this segment today. But you know what? There's so many people out there who go, well, how do I get to know myself? There's so many aspects of myself, and yeah, okay, I want to do self-discovery. I want to be able to have change readiness to go through change and identify my mission and my vision and be able to have sustainable impact. Yes, I want that. But how can I start looking at myself beyond the 4 essential questions is the step 1. But step 2, which I have found very powerful, is using another tool which is, we talk about in the book, is the Johari window. And I love the Johari window because at any stage of your leadership, there are going to be blind spots and there's going to be hidden aspects. So let's just share a little bit, in the next 3 to 5 minutes, Sujata, a little bit about the Johari window, because I think that's a powerful opportunity for growth.
Sure. And so Joseph and Harry got together and they create the Johari window here, and it's just brilliance. There's a square. It's made up of a huge 4 squares that make up one huge square. And they're talking about a part of you that that you are willing to share with other people. Then there's a part of you that that you're not going to share with other people. It's private. Then guess what? There's a part where everybody else knows about you, but you are so clueless. You have no idea that it exists. And then the 4th little portion is the discovery part. There's still so much to find out about yourself. And these 2 wonderful researchers, Joseph Luft and Harrington Ingham, created this to understand what makes us tick.
Yeah. And again, we bringing it back to your work world. And again, I would say, go back and explore this Johari window. Some of the key learnings that I've had is that area, that discomfort area when other things are known to others, but not to myself, has been the greatest opportunity of my leadership journey. Because people will share with you, if you are a conscious, open leader, like you're inviting in people to share with you, how can I improve? What could I grow in to make myself even stronger as a leader? And this is the area where they can share with you. And perhaps what I have found is that most or many of the situations, the conflicts, the communication challenges come from the impact of our words on others, or how our emotions are driving those conversations. So if my tone and my pace and the cadence of how I'm speaking is too much or too strong, my words aren't well thought out, what kind of impact am I having on people? And this is where I have found the ability to watch, even now, like I'm watching Sujata, how is that I'm speaking resonating, and getting people to share those hidden aspects that I don't see has greatly impacted and grow and provided me growth in my own self-discovery. And that's a key piece. I think this is that one area where people see things and you don't see things. I'm keeping it really simple.
Yeah.
It's a powerful place. So what is your experience with that, Sujata?
Yes, absolutely. And, there are two places where this little quadrant or this little square is going to show up. It's going to show up in your performance evaluation,
True.
where your boss is going to say, these are the things that I'm seeing, and these are the things that I'm noticing. So that's that quadrant where you aren't noticing these things. You don't see these things, but somebody else is seeing these things, right? So that's the first context where this can show up. The other context can be a good friend. A good friend might come up to you and say, take you aside and say, hey, I've noticed this behavior, or I've noticed this about you. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but so forth. Or a husband or a wife might, or even a child might. But here's the thing. Are you open to receive? Do you have it in your personality to be open? Or are you closed-minded? So you have to be ready to receive that piece of information or that piece of knowledge that somebody else is seeing about you.
Yes. And thank you, Sujata. And the other thing that really reminds me of this is, the openness is key. So knowing self, that's why we start out in the self-discovery. That's why we start out in the 4 essential questions. The clearer we can get, and having that clarity. That's why clarity is one of the number one in conscious leadership activators is clarity. We must be clear. And that's my own word saying must. But for me personally, I think it's one of the fundamental aspects of leadership today, and having it is such a valuable asset in anything and all things you do. And it's interesting too, because what I have found effective is to do performance check-ins or personal inventory, things like that, to really do check-ins with people, to ask them like how I'm actually showing up. Are there one area or 2 areas that I can grow in, expand in, etc.? And I think this is the key. We talk about, looking at performance so that you're not sideswiped, if I may use that term, when you get to your performance review and all of a sudden you're like, what? I didn't see that coming. So take action, take the time to purposefully ask people for input, feedback, to how you're showing up in your own leadership. This is that conscious, because instead of your I, you create a we. And that's what Gina Hayden talks a lot about. And I believe in that. Absolutely. The connection, the collaboration is fundamental. So conduct that weekly self-assessment, that performance review is foundational for me. Sujata, what have you found helpful with your clients?
Absolutely. As a counselor, people will say, what do you do for a living? And I almost want to say, I ask good questions. Because I think that those skills that you have in whatever that you do in your niche is very, very important in helping people to grow. And part of being a counselor is being able to ask those questions. I never tell people, or I never bring that advice to them. Instead, I ask them good questions for them to arrive at the answer that's already inside of them. So before we were talking about, perception and perspectives, if we don't open ourselves up, then we're living this life of illusion, really. right? It's and the other thing that really skews our choices and our problem solving is our memories. So human beings are walking this earth based on memory. There are some things that you remember from your past. There are things that you don't remember from your past. There are things that you remember from last week, from yesterday, other things you don't. It's what you've paid attention to. It's where your attention is. That those are the things that you're going to remember. And just a really simple example is you come into your home and before you know it, you've lost your keys. You don't remember where you put them. And it's a prime example because you're not placing your attention on where you put those keys. So it seems almost too simple, but it's a fantastic example of, your past self that you remember is attached to your current decision making and problem solving, your pain and your suffering. So what we're asking you to do in this chapter is continuous self-improvement. And you can do this through our essential questions. You can do it through the Johari window because you're multitasking all the time. Your thoughts are in here. Me, myself, and I, my head brain, my heart brain, my gut brain. There's a lot going on, with one person and, all of these constructs that are going on. But your future self, you do have control over that through what you are willing to learn, to accept, to change.
Yeah, and so well said, and thank you for saying that. And we're going to wrap up now in the next 2 to 3 minutes. But the whole thing here is first starting with self, to go within, to then transform without. We've talked about that many times, about the self-discovery through change readiness to sustainable impact. And it's really seeing us and understanding ourselves and the strengths and the people that we work with, and those that we're working alongside, is to see the strength and come from that strength-based approach. And I think that's a key, also important element in conscious leadership. It's not the deficit, it's the strength. And we talk about in our insights, in the book, you'll see there's tips, tools, and insights. And we talk about some of those insight pointers. So I really champion you to look at that, read it, and then practice some of those insights. And it's very powerful because when you look at someone from that fresh perspective, which is your perspective, but then going to another person's perspective, it is really interesting what you will notice. And you talked about that, the flow, the energy, where we are doing, what we're focusing on is what, we focus on. And so the good examples of what you just shared, Sujata, are very powerful. So as we wrap up this segment, Sujata, is there anything else that's kind of, percolating in there that you want to share about conscious leadership? There's so many things we could still say about it, but it just gives you that quick high level of why, the reasons, the opportunity and possibility that this book offers you as you continue to develop this conscious leadership style. So Sujata, any closing remarks?
Absolutely. We really want you to place an emphasis on helping people to grow, meet them where they are. We want you to really see what their values are, make a connection with their values, because after this pandemic, values changed drastically for people. And most of all, we want you to go for a peaceful mindset. People say, well, once they get the job, once they get the promotion, once they get, there'll be peace of mind. but really shoot for the peace of mind first, so the money will follow. Everything else will follow.
And I appreciate that, and I echo those remarks, and I think as you are, wherever you are in your amazing leadership journey, just ask yourself powerful questions. Take the time now to go back, get the book, and how you can get the book is on Amazon, and it's also on other platforms as well, which is really wonderful and great at this time. But I'm just going to share. You can go to www.activate-success.com. That's our website on the book. Get to learn a little bit more about myself and with Sujata. You can click easy, simple link, click it, goes right into Amazon. Pick up. There's 3 different formats of the book. There's Kindle, paperback, and the hard copy. I love the hard copy because it is a beautiful keepsake. And the workbook takes you through and gives you all of the questions that you can go through as a support tool. And I think that is important because it's one thing to read something, but it's the greatest opportunity is to actually take action from it. So pick up both, read the book and then take action through the workbook. And that's where your growth is going to happen. And so we will be back again to celebrate on our chapter 6, which is really exciting. Another chapter, 2 different activators. Keep writing down those activators, because if you focus on them, you will activate success. And with that, I thank you for your time, your attention, and the opportunity for you to activate success. So we'll say goodbye now and thank you, and we'll see you in a couple days. Bye for now. Thank you, Sujata.
Bye.